Happy lunch hour, guys. So if I didn't piss off enough people with the mid-morning video, maybe I'll do it this time. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you the facts, the truth. It's up to you if you want to listen to them or if you want to be a sheep. That's all I'm going to tell you. Okay, simple as this. So the latest, and this is getting even more and more ridiculous. Y'all know about the tuition reimbursement bill, right? Or the not tuition reimbursement, but the student loan forgiveness. That's what they're calling it. All right. Well, there's a little more in depth to it than just paying off $10,000 or $20,000 of people's loans. They want the public basically to pay off everybody's loans going forward. So basically, what they're trying to do is make an end run around and make college free. Let me explain. And there's more to it than just this. Let me get to it. This is really screwing with all of our money. So the way the bill is written, that will inevitably be signed by Joe Potato, is student loans going forward. The people will only have to pay, the borrower will only have to pay 5% of their disposable income toward their student loan. Okay. After 10 years, whatever balance there is forgiven. Okay, so let's think about this. You go get a job for $50,000, which would be a good paying job right out of college, okay? Even though all these kids think, hey, they deserve the mansion, the Mercedes, and the corner office right out of college. That ain't the way it works, okay? So they get a $50,000 job. Well, the way the economy's running right now, rent is on average around the country $2,000. We know what food costs are, electric, etc. So your disposable income, tiny. Okay, so maybe let's say you have $1,000 out of your $4,300 or whatever it is left over. Let's say you have $1,000. Let's say you actually manage to have 25% of your income as disposable income. You'd only have to pay 5% of that. That's $50 for 10 years. $50 times 12 is $600 a year times 10 years, $6,000. That's all they'd have to pay. The rest of it would get written off, which is really read as paid for by the taxpayer. Now, if you're lucky, maybe you can pay for one semester of college on $6,000. Okay? The other 7 semesters, those will be picked up by the taxpayer. First off, that's how this is written for that one. So let's add something else to it, and this is the other problem that we have. Let's talk about what the colleges see. You know what? We'll just raise tuition. The kids aren't going to care anyway because they're never going to have to pay this back. But the government will give us money and we'll collect all this money. Let's change the average cost of a college education from $70,000 to $100,000. We'll pocket an extra $30,000 that we're already making now. The kid still only has to pay $6,000. Who cares if we stick the taxpayer with $94,000 for each kid? Okay. Study came out over the weekend. They are now expecting this to cost, $1 trillion in 10 years. Okay. Paying off all these kids' student loans. Right. And kids going forward, their student loans too. But then what do you have the other thing everybody is screaming for because of Joe's economy and inflation? Get this. Latest talk on the Beltway. We need to talk about raising the minimum wage. $15 an hour isn't cutting it. So what should we make the minimum wage? $20? $25? Okay. So let's say it's $25 an hour. Let's say that's what, remember, when we were doing 15, there were plenty of places saying, no, we want a $30 an hour minimum wage. So let's go into exactly what I just said. Average kid comes out of college, gets a $50 or $50,000 a year job. It's about average. Let's make it a $25 minimum wage. Okay? $25 minimum wage is $50,000 a year. So let's see. Do I want to go to college and get an education, or do I want to flip burgers at McDonald's? I can make the same money. Great. That should do wonders for the innovation and, the future of our country. Okay. We have a generation 2, 5, 10 of burger flippers. Okay. No offense to you guys that work at McDonald's or whatever it is. Okay. But this is the insanity of what's going on. So you're getting calls out of some of these states and some of these congressmen who are saying we need to raise the minimum wage to $20 or $25. What's that going to do? What did it do last time? It caused inflation. Like we need any more inflation. Again, official government numbers were 8.7% inflation. Calculate it like we did back in the 80s, we're actually at 17% inflation. Okay? You start looking at this and go, we're on a collision course with collapse. And this is what's going on. What should they work on? Not raising wages, lowering costs, okay? Lowering prices. How can we make housing less expensive? Okay? Oh, maybe if we started domestic harvesting domestic making of product. How could we make energy less expensive? Oh, I don't know. Maybe the U.S. could go energy independent. There was somebody who had an idea like that at one point. And we were paying like $1.90 a gallon of gas. Okay. Electricity was cheap. Let's talk about things like that. I go back. I will compare this to the old Soviet Union. All right. You had professions that you would never expect paid more than other ones. Doctors or school teachers made less than bartenders. I mean, that was how insane it was. You had people that had something up here or something here, an actual skill, knowledge, or trades or something like that, a skill that they could do. And the non-skilled people were making more money than the skilled people. I mean, somebody could be a cab driver and make as much money as a general practitioner. Which one are you going to put? Which one would you do? Which one's easier? Okay. This is the problem. The entire platform that is being shoved down to us is, how can we make everything easier? Now, I've got no problem with making things easier, but you can't make everything easier. If think about it. If everything was so easy, Edison would have never invented electricity. Henry Ford would have never invented the car. Okay? What do we need that for? Horses are fine. You know what? Candles are fine. There would be no Alexander Graham Bell in the telephone. There would be no, I gotta say this one, Al Gore in the internet. Okay? If it wasn't for innovation. And innovation takes skill. You go into, I don't know, pick something. Think of heat pumps or indoor plumbing or something like this. Those are all people that had skills to figure out how to make stuff like that work. If we don't support that anymore, if there isn't any reason for people to better themselves as an entire country, we collapse, okay? We can't be an entire UBI nation where everybody sits on the couch and plays video games and eats Cheetos all day. Why? Because eventually you have nobody to develop the video games, guys, okay? This is it, You can sit out and stare out the window. That's about it, because with nothing else out there, that's all there's left to do. There is no television, Go back for those of us my age or stuff like that. I mean, I remember 8-track players. I remember when CDs first came out. Who the hell buys CDs anymore? Nobody. But man, when CDs first came out, everybody thought it was the greatest things in sliced bread, okay? Or a VCR, or remember the cordless telephone at home where you pulled out the antenna and you could walk around the house and talk on the phone? Oh my God, what great inventions. Look at those now. Maybe you might find some of that stuff at your local Goodwill, okay? But 20, 30, 40 years ago, that was cutting edge technology. What's going to be cutting edge technology 20, 30, 40 years from now if we all go into this? Look, honey, I figured out how I can cut flowers. It took a while, but I figured if I put two pieces of metal and crossed them, and then I twisted them like this, and the edge were sharp, the flower came off the stem. I'm a genius. I mean, that's where we're going back to. You know, the old joke, you know, we've been around since the invention of the wheel. We may eventually have somebody else who has to reinvent the wheel, you know, going forward. Because the way humanity's going, we're doing everything we can to stifle growth. Personal, professional, countrywide, nationwide, worldwide, whatever you want to be. We're doing whatever we can to stop people from thinking. You know, a $20, $25 minimum wage? No, I'm sorry. You know, Mrs. P and I went to the grocery store this morning, and it was 7 o'clock or whatever it was, and I was hungry. I was like, okay, let's stop at McDonald's and get breakfast, right? So they had this special on their sausage, egg, and cheese muffin or whatever the hell they call it. It was, you know, 2 for $4.25 or something like that, which is still bad. And the lady rings the thing up, $17. I'm like, that ain't right. She goes, no, that's a normal price. She goes, as soon as we're done with your order, it'll take it off. And I looked at Mrs. P. I'm like, can you imagine 4 eggs, 4 English muffins, 4 little sausage patties, and 4 slices of American cheese, and they want $17 freaking dollars for it normal? What does it be if we get a $25 minimum wage? $30 for 4 sandwiches? That are, you know, this big, all right? You know, 4 bites, 5 bites, and you're done. They don't need to raise wages. We need to figure out how to reduce the costs of everything we have. That should be the focus. Fix the supply chain. Fix the government spending. Because all they're going to do by raising minimum wage and pushing through this tuition reimbursement forever plan is cause more inflation, more inflation, more inflation. And eventually, guys, we are Venezuela. We are the Weimar Republic. If y'all noticed this morning, okay, Turkey, okay, or Turkaya or whatever they just changed the name to, the inflation rate is 80%. Guess what, guys? We have another country to add into the hyperinflation list. How long? Until we live in one of them.